Welcome to the DIY3DTech.com channel.
Welcome to this edition of DIY3DTech.com. In this episode we're going to use Inkscape to create a small vacuum tube holder. So one of the things that I like to do is collect small miniature vacuum tubes. I have a tube-based buffer for my stereo system, and one of the things I do is enjoy collecting different tubes, and one of the things I would like to do is develop kind of like a standardized sort of rack or carrier to laser cut to show these tubes off on a stand next to the stereo. So this is what we're going to design in this episode. So we're going to start with a box, and basically since the tubes are about 19 millimeters in diameter, I'm going to start out with the 25 by 25 box and as my basis, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the tubes in there. So basically what I'm going to do is now create roughly let's see, let's make this 19.5. We'll give a little bit of leeway in there. So 19.5, 19.5, and then what we'll do is we will center our circle in there. Also, I want to knock this circle down widthwise to 0.25 millimeter line thickness, and so it matches the other ones. And then what I want to do is I am going to clone this. So I am going to have two of these, and I am going to and then just to make sure I've got these, whoops, didn't want to do that. So I just want to do the boxes, and boxes are that. And then so what I'm going to do is, let's see if I get lucky and union works. It does. So now basically what happened is I just kind of cheated to do the circle alignment. There's a couple different ways we could have done that, but that was basically the quickest and the easiest. So now one of the things we need to do is create some tabs. So as I mentioned, or I think I did at the onset, is I'm going to be doing it out of 3 millimeter acrylic. So I'm going to set this for 3.2 millimeters width, and then I'm going to set it for a height. I'm going to have a tab length of 15. And so now one of the things for me, you know, so I kind of keep going back, and there's probably a way to set this, and I just don't know it off the top of my head. But the line size, the narrower I found pretty much the better. So basically, we want to overlap this a little bit, and then we want to also duplicate this, and let's put this on the other side, and then what we will do is overlap that a little bit. So now let's select these three objects, and one of the things, alignment is just so handy. And then we go up here, we create a union, and then now we have our tab pieces. Now you'll notice we have not cut out the circles yet, or remove the circles is the difference with the top two, because what we're going to do is we're going to now copy this, and because we're going to need to have two of these. So we create one down here, and then now what we need to do is we need to change this diameter from basically 19.5 to around 12.1. And now as I make the change here, I'll explain. So 12.1, and that's what we have. And then again, this one will become, I guess I could have just copied, but whatever, 12.1, and then 12.1. Now the logic here is this will allow the pins of the tube to pass through the base, but yet the bottom of the tube will rest upon the plexiglass cutout. So the one thing we need to do is we need to now realign this to the center. Whoops. Would help if we do this. So we've now aligned this to the center, and then let's just kind of cheat here a little bit and bring this back. Since we have this in the center, we've got that in the center, and let's bring another grid line over here, and let's move this to the center. Okay, so we now have these two pieces. I'm going to still hold off. Let me just double check here. Yeah, that's pretty close for government work. We've left a little bit of slop in there, so that's okay. So now what we do is we now have our top and bottoms. So what we need to create now is our sides. So basically, remember, we did this as a 25 millimeter square. So basically what we need is we need to start with another 25 millimeter square, and I want to think about how I'm going to do this. So alright, let me move this over a little bit. So I am going to start again, and one of the things you'll notice I do here is I'm going to go back to a square, because this kind of helps me get my thoughts together on how to design this. So now because these are going to be clones of one another, so we only have to really create one. So lining these up is really critical. So we're going to do this. Now we need to think a little bit how tall we want this. So the tube itself, I think, is about 40. Yeah, it's about 40 centimeters from top to pin bottom. Not the very top where it's tied off, but basically the top of the tube to the bottom is 40 millimeters. So the piece is, let's make this about 50 millimeters tall. Just want to think this through a second. So we're going to make this 50, and so we're going to line it up like that. And then what we need to do is we're going to need to create some tabbed cutouts. So if you remember, we know the material is 3 millimeters thick, and so if we do this, if we say now width is 3, now I'm going to make this 3.02ish. I want to give a little bit of leeway. Matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to leave it at 2. I'm going to give it a, well, I'm going to take this down a little bit. I'm going to live risky, 3.01. And then remember, we made this 15 wide, so I'm going to make this 15.02 wide. So I want it to be a little bit, give myself a little bit of room, because I am going to glue this in. So you notice that this is, we want to line this up here. So now what we want to do is kind of place this in the placement, so long as it's not too far off, can be a little bit arbitrary. I just bumped and turned my monitor off. So the body of the tube is about 20 millimeters. So I think for aesthetics, I'm going to make it about 20 millimeters separation. So one of the things that I am going to do is I am going to create another box, and I'm going to create this for reference, and I'm going to say width 20, and then I'm just again using this is my reference. I'll delete it when I'm finished, actually. So let's want to scooch this over. So basically in Windows Box I'm using Alt arrow to kind of do a fine move, and then so basically what I'm going to do is do copy paste this guy, and again line them up. So again, poor man's, I could use a ruler, I could have did a couple other things, but one of the things, I work in a lot of different applications, and this is probably a little trick. Rather than remembering the rulers and measuring things for each different one, using structure such as this to cheat makes life quite a bit easier. So so we'll do that, and then now the only thing we have to really do is we want to center these objects. So now you can kind of see the layout taking place here. Now one of the things I do want to do is go back to make this 0.25, and then I do want to make these 0.25, and then this one 0.25, just for unity. Now one of the things, okay, so we could just now cut this out, copy this over, and almost say it's done, but it's a little bit lacking. It's a little bit cold, so let's aesthetic this guy up a little bit, and let's do a circle here. So let's do let's do a 20 millimeter. Make sure I got the right things going on here. So do another 20, and boom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this circle up here and line this up with this base. And again, I'm going to just do an alignment centered, and then boom. Alright, so that looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm going to be getting at here in a second. So so if I do this, and then I do path, and then I say difference, I think that's what I want. Nope, that didn't work. Cut. Why isn't that working? So if I take this, so that's the difference, alright, and then if I take this, and then I take, whoops, go over to path and do difference. Okay, so this now should be, I should have a hole here, let me think just a quick second if I want to do anything more aesthetic. So just for why I'm thinking, I am just, whoops, apparently that didn't cut those pieces out because that didn't come along with it. So let me do this and see if I go back here, cut path, nope, that's not what I wanted. And so if I go and do difference, path difference, alright, let's see if that worked. I think that did. Alright, that did. So basically we're just going to put this down here. So we now have our two sides, and we have our top, and we have our bottom. I'm just trying to think, do we want to do anything kind of more aesthetic here? I don't think so. I think we'll just give this a run and see how this prints out. So anyways, just a quick tutorial. Probably wasn't too quick. I'm not sure how much time it took. until I go to edit this, but it kind of gives you an idea how to use Inkscape. Now, what we'll do is we'll actually export this, and I'm going to export it as a BMP actually, and put it into LaserDraw and cut this out. So I'll do a separate video on that, so watch for that coming out very shortly, probably right after this one, because I'm going to head over to the laser cutter now. So give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the channel. A lot more of this coming. I'm going to plan on doing quite a few pieces on using Inkscape in the laser cutter, and so watch for them come out. Cheers.